Before we start this video, large thank you to John, Philip, Matthew, Paul, G, Nimyodadev, Joe, Ben, and Ben for their support on Patreon. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Hello everybody, we are back with this series. It has been very, very busy and I apologize for the delay, but I know you didn't come here to hear a YouTuber talk about his life, you came here to get some knowledge. So, where did we leave off? Well, if I run up to the zombie, you'll see he tries to grapple me, and that will put me into a grappling attack where we take damage via an animation event. Now, but what if we want to just attack by having the zombie swing his hand at us? Well, I have two animations here, and these are coming from the pack that we're working on. It's not done yet, but I promise as soon as it is, I will drop a link. I don't expect it to be much longer because now we're back to working on this series. So, I am going to go over here now into my override layer, and I encourage you to drop in any placeholder animations or any actual animations you have here. We're going to make a melee style swipe attack. So basically the logic is the zombie's just going to throw his hand at us, and instead of putting us into a grapple, he's just going to do some straight up damage. We're going to play a damage animation. So I'm going to copy these event states and paste them and just rename them to swipe, and I'm going to drag in my swipe animations. I'm going to give you an example of two of these. I'm just going to clean up my state machine here a little bit, move the animation files around, and make sure you drag them all back to empty, or make a transition back to empty rather. I'm just going to take a sip of my kombucha. Okay, so drag my animations in. Now this is going to work a little bit differently than the grappling setup, because in the grappling setup we're locking both the zombie and player into a different animation after we have detected that we've reached the player to grapple. So I'm actually going to duplicate this zombie lunging attack animation, or you can even go here and go to AI actions and you can create a new one. It's all the same for now though, because both of them are going to work using the same logic, which is the zombie attack action. I'm going to call this zombie swipe attack, and I'm going to call that 01, so I'm going to rename this to 01 just to keep in the naming conventions, because in the future we may have multiple lunging or swiping attacks. So this just keeps it clean, and I like keeping my naming conventions very clean right off the get-go. Don't want to come back to a messy project later on, so it is wise to stay on top of that, at least from my experience. Alright, so now that I have zombie swipe attack 01, I'm just going to take the animation name and put that into this attack animation variable here. That's very important. Change the cooldown 2-3 seconds maybe for a swipe, because it's a lot more of a quicker style of attack, and your angles and distances should be pretty fine from the standpoint of if you copy the lunging attack. So let's go to zombie attacks here, and let's populate this list. This is on the attack state. Make sure you go to zombie attacks and not potential attacks, because potential attacks is the attacks from this attack list that pass the check for distance and angle. So let's put these in here, and if we go to the game now and we press start, you're going to see that this works, but we're not playing any of our new attacks. Why is that? Well, you see we have the current attack variable already assigned, and it says zombie lunging attack. At no point do we clear this, so basically every time we come back to the attack state, it's going to do the exact same thing. So let's fix that right now. Now, luckily we have a function for this called reset state flags, and that resets everything before we leave the attack state, but we're not resetting our attack because in the past we only had the one. So let's just say current attack is equal to null. Now let's see what happens when we save that. So I am going to save that, and then before I move on, I'm going to go back over here to the attack state, and right at the top, I'm going to say if zombie manager, being the zombie, dot current target, dot distance, actually we have a variable for that, that's my bad. That would be zombie manager dot distance from current target is greater than zombie manager dot maximum attack distance. We want to return the pursue target state. This is because if we get to the attack state, but by then the player is already gone out of the range, we want to just go back to the return pursue target state again. All right, I'm just going to make a note up here and just basically type exactly what I just said. If when in the attack state our target gets too far away, we just want to bring our zombie back in the pursue target state. And that will just recycle the logic again. Okay, so I'm going to save that now. I'm going to look down through this, check my notes real quick. That looks good. Down here in reset state flags, just going to make a note. We clear the attack when leaving the state. That's so the same attack doesn't replay over and over again. Otherwise, you'll just be locked into that one attack and nothing else will be able to happen. So I'm going to press play, and now let's see what happens. If I approach our zombie over here, he should play the attack, and then he should play a different attack. So there is the lunging attack. Cool. That's when we start off on. And he's just standing there because of the cooldown. But nothing is happening. Now, why is that? This is because I have circled around him. And there cannot be another attack because none of the attacks meet the parameters because we're standing behind him. Now, what we could do is go up to the bottom here, or down to the bottom rather, and we could say if our current attack, or else if current attack, is equal to null, then we could return our pursued target state. And that would kind of work, but we don't want to do that, and I'll explain why. But rather than just explaining, I want to show you so you understand this, so you know why we're doing what we're doing. So basically, this would lock us in a cycle of coming into the attack state and leaving, and coming into the attack state and leaving, and it might make the zombie look kind of jittery. So instead of doing that, what we can do is not assign the attack on the attack state itself, but rather assign it before we get to the attack state, and only use the attack state to actually perform the attack. So let's go over to pursue target state, and instead of doing what we just did here now, we can get rid of that else if, and we can copy get new attack. So delete what you just wrote if you wrote else if there, and copy the whole function for get new attack and bring it from the attack state to the pursue target state, okay? Now copy the list of zombie attacks and potential attacks and bring those over to the top of the pursue target state as pursue target state variables. And then come down where it says if current attack equals null, get new attack, copy this chunk of code and delete it from here, and we're going to put that in the pursue target state. So open up where the state performs its actions, and down here, let's look in the code here now and take some time to read this. So right here where it says if we are less than or equal to the maximum attack distance, and if our attack state.current attack is equal to null, we want to get new attack. Otherwise, we want to return the attack state because that means we already have an attack and we're within attacking range. So this is going to give you an error, so just hit return this after we get new attack, so it goes back to the top of the state and performs the logic again. And now, right where it says attack target, just copy that bit and put that here and delete the else. And what you want to do also is, let's just scroll up here, just save this, and go back to the pursue target state. And now, we have to do a couple more things, specifically regarding a nav mesh agent and this get new attack. So let's say attack state.current attack. So we're still assigning the current attack, we're just assigning it to the attack state from the pursued target state. And let's save that again. And also, let's go over here now and basically replace the attacks and put them on the pursued target state. Again, make sure it's under the zombie attacks and not potential attacks, because potential attacks are just basically attacks that are available after checking through the list. Now, if I approach this gentleman, you will see that he is attacking. There he is. But you'll notice that we're within range of him. He's almost not rotating correctly, and I'll show you what I mean. If I get too close to him, he'll start walking straight, and I'm going to show you why. You see this? How he walks on past me? Now, this is a very, very easy thing to miss if you were just, not reading the code. Right here, the nav mesh agent, you can see we're actually disabling it when we get to the attack state. We want to basically disable the nav mesh agent when we're attacking, and we want to enable it when we're not. So we only want to disable when we know we're going to the attack state. So otherwise, you won't be able, or the zombie won't rotate using the nav mesh, because when we actually go to the attack state, as you know, the zombie rotates using the target where you are standing in front of him. So now if we go back again, you'll see if you walk up to him, we get in, see he's rotating his attack, fine, that's normal, but now he should rotate towards us when we walk around him, and yes, he does. So there's the other attack. Everything is working now as intended so far. Looks good. And there's the other attack again. Let's see if he gets the other one off. Yes, okay, and there's the third attack. So they are all working fine. But right now, if we let him hit us, that attack doesn't really do much because there's nothing happening. He's just playing an animation, so let's fix that. Now, if we go to our zombie's hands, he has these things called grapple colliders. I'm going to take a sip of my tea again, just a sec. Okay, so he has these things called grapple colliders in his hands. We're actually going to use these also for a thing called damage colliders. So right now, if you go into the script, as you can see, I'm actually going to rename this right now to damage collider because we're going to turn these into multi-purpose tools. Now, you can keep it grapple collider if you want. I had every intention of making it a damage collider eventually as well, but I am going to change the name because that would actually irk me. And if you're a person who's okay with that, that's totally fine. So what's a damage collider? Well, it's going to be multi-purpose. It's going to serve as a thing that can damage the player when it touches them, but also it can lock the player into a damage-specific animation like a grapple. So with a swiping animation, what we want to do is we want to turn this on and damage the player if they get touched by it. So let's go to our enums. Let's make a new enum for zombie attack type. And we're going to make one for grapple and one for swipe. And why are we doing this? Well, we have to know, or we have to let the zombie know which logic to use. Now, everything in here can be used already and repurposed, and we can add new logic to it. So add a variable for public zombie attack type called attack type. I'm going to make a header here, call this current attack type. And basically the zombie's going to decide what kind of attack he's doing based on this variable. And then we're going to make a header above this, just going to call it damage collider hand, because that shows which hand this damage collider belongs to, the left or the right. And then I'm going to make a header above that for collider, and that's just a collider that is used on this. So now let's make a private void, because it's only being used inside the script. I'm going to call it decide attack action. Okay, so, and then we're going to say if attack type is equal to zombie attack type dot grapple or swipe, then we're going to do some logic. So if we'll start with grapple because we already have that. If it equals grapple, else if it equals swipe. Now, if it equals grapple, what we can do is we can just copy the logic we have in the on trigger enter collider and just put that in there. Nothing changes really. And we can actually reuse some of this logic for both variants. For example, we're always checking for the layer, and we always need the player manager variable. And we're always going to check if the player manager variable is not null. So basically everything inside if player does not equal null, you can copy and put inside the grapple section of that bottom function. So I'm going to copy this right here now. Whoops, I copied the wrong bit. I meant to copy everything that was inside the if player is unequal null. There we go, this right here. So copy, delete that, and put that right inside here. But first we're going to make it require a player manager variable. So in order to call this function, you need to have a player manager variable, which we do. As you can see, we get it right here. It equals other.getComponent. So if player does not equal null, decide attack action and pass to player. All right, now we have that. This will work fine as it is. Now, what happens if it's a swipe? Well, we got to do a few things to make that work. So I'm just going to drag in a damage animation to our player's animator window, just so we have a damage animation for general damage. And in the future, we can make this directional dependent. Like if you get hit from behind, you get pushed forward. If you get hit from the front, you get pushed backwards. But for now, just a regular damage animation. That's all we need. So down here, if we get attacked by a swipe, we're going to say player.playerAnimatorManager.play animation damage 01. You put whatever your damage animation is there. I'm going to make a note. It just says we make the player play a damage animation. And remember, this logic only gets ran if the zombie's hands detect the player. That's why it's ran under on trigger enter. If the trigger actually touches the player's collider, then we run this logic. So let's make a header for damage, just general damage. We're going to pass this number to the player's health if they get hit by a swipe. So public int, I'm just going to call this damage amount. I'm going to say it's equal to 25. We can assign that in a special way later, but for now, let's just get this to a prototype functional state so you can see it actually works. And let's go down here to the player stat manager. Whoops, not the player manager, sorry. I meant to go to the player stat manager. And let's see if we have a functionality to detract health in a normal manner. So we have take health or take damage from grapple, and then we use that on an animation event. So that's not what we want. What we want to do is make another one, public void take damage. That's it. Require it to have an integer passed to it. We'll call that damage taken. And we can actually just look at our other logic here now and pretty much copy that. The difference is we're not using this one because this one's only called on an animation event. We want a general purpose one that we can call from code. So I'm going to say player health equals player health minus damage taken. And then likewise, if our player's health is less than or equal to 0, we have to kill the player. And also we want to update our health pop-up to showcase the character what his health is. And I'll make a comment here just to make this clear. This is called on animator event when whilst the player is taking damage from a grapple event. And the take damage event below it, or the take damage function rather, is more of a general purpose function that can be called when the player contacts a damage collider, whether that be an environmental hazard, a zombie's hand, just anything in the game that will damage the player and pass damage if the player touches it. So if we come back now, we can simply say player.playerStatManager.takeDamage, and we can pass the damage of our damage taken, or damage amount rather. And I'll make a comment here saying we damage the player, and we can save that. All right, now if I go up, I'm going to minimize this. Let's go back over here into the zombie attack action because we still need to notify the zombie which attack he's doing when he performs an attack. So under zombie attack action, let's make a header called attack type and make a variable for zombie attack type, the one we just made for enum. And now what we want to do is assign this variable every time we make a new attack action And when we actually go to play this action, we want to make sure we're notifying the zombie's damage colliders which attack it's going to be performing. So let's go to our zombie swipe 1 and 2 and our zombie's lunge attacks, and make sure that the lunge has the attack type of grapple and the swipes have the attack type of swipes. All right, and now when we're done that, let's actually figure out a way to notify the zombies' damage colliders of their current attack type. So if we go to attack target, the function itself on the attack state, this is where we're actually going to program it in. So let's go right up here, and right under has performed attack, we're going to say zombie manager. And I think this is under the zombie combat manager, maybe? We have this. So let's say zombie combat manager dot, and I guess those variables are private. Yes, they are. So we can make those public, or we can just make a public function and assign the logic we need. So let's just do that instead. Let's make a public function for our public void, set attack type, and then we need to pass a zombie attack type, call it attack type, and then we just set right hand grapple collider dot attack type. And I'm going to change that to right hand damage collider because that's going to irk me if I don't. And left hand damage collider. And it's just as simple as saying right hand damage collider dot attack type equals attack type. And then the same thing can be true with the left hand damage collider dot attack type equals attack type. All right, we save that. Go back to the attack state. Zombie manager dot zombie combat manager dot set attack type and pass our attack's attack type. And whoop, that's giving me an error. Why is that? Oh, right. We have to call current attack dot attack type. My bad. There we go. And that should work just fine. Cool. All right. So far, so good. Now let's go over to the zombie combat manager. Going to change this to load damage colliders. Just again, because of personal preference, you don't need to do this. Going to change every word that I see called grapple to damage. So basically, grapple collider will be changed to damage collider on every bit of logic here. Again, not necessary for functionality, just for, in my opinion, cleanliness, because this is now a multi-purpose script. It should reflect that in the name. All right, so now if we go over to your zombie, make sure you check the box for is right-handed damage collider again, because that might have unchecked itself if you've just re-edited the names like me. Next, let's go to our animations, and we want to assign the open damage colliders. Now, if your animation says read-only like this, because you're using an FBX and not just an anim file, you can actually do something else. I'm just going to show you, because I like using FBXs lately in case I have to replace them, because it saves the animation event data. So down here under events, open this up and click this little button here that says plus event. And then if you see this little dragging meter, if you actually drag this little stick here, it'll show you right on the animation where it is. And this is very, very useful in my opinion for getting that nice precision. So now just get the name of your function that you want. I'm just going to rename this to open damage colliders, not open grapple colliders. Keep in mind, if you rename it this will break the animation event on your first animation, which I'm going to fix too in this video, don't worry. So if you don't remember how to do that, I will show you. And now go over here and put the name here on the function and just click apply. And make sure you also create a new one for closing the damage collider. So make sure you hit that plus icon again and don't just rename it like this, because if you do this and hit apply, you've just only got the one animation event. And it will not make a second one. So every time you want to make an animation event, you have to hit the little plus icon there. And again, just do the same for your second animation, or however many you have. Go to the end again as well, and hit the little plus icon, and then make another animation event for closing the damage collider. And if you want to also, remember we had a method for rotating on the attacks. So you could basically choose when to allow the zombie to rotate, and choose when to allow the zombie not to rotate. Now, it's the same principle. Just go wherever you want on an animation event, drop it, put the name of the function, which is enable rotation, I do believe. I can't recall for sure. We can check that real quick though. So it's under zombie attack lunge 01. Here we go. So we have, enable rotation during attack, and open grapple colliders should be changed to open damage colliders. Close grapple colliders should be called close damage colliders. But yeah, enable or disable rotation during attacks. If you want to add that to your attacks as well, that's how you do it. Just make the animation events. Now, if I go into the game here, let's make sure this guy can hit us. And he can hit us right there on that first one, because I think I messed up the animation event. But the second one, he does hit us. So I'm just going to go back and check my animations real quick, because I think as I was describing that to you guys, I did the thing I said not to do. I definitely did, because that damage collider is not opening. Okay, I did. I fixed it. Now I'm going back into the game. Let's see if he can damage us. That's the grapple. We're going to avoid that attack because we know that works. Let's just let him hit us with the regular swipe attack. There we go. Okay, so cool. He does a lot of damage to us, Pushes us back. Now let's see the other attack. Let's make sure that hits us fine. Gonna dodge that grapple. This actually feels really fun too. You can kind of just barely get away from the attacks if you sprint. That's cool. All right, come on, throw the second attack. That's the first one. And that's the second one, and he hits us. Okay, guys. So that works as intended. Now, in the future, we're going to do a lot of cool things with this. We're going to make our character play a damage animation depending on which direction he's hit from. If you guys want to, I can also make it so the zombie only opens colliders on one of his hands, depending on which hand the animation is using. That's pretty straightforward to set up. If you would like me to cover that in a video, just let me know. I know a couple people have been asking. I do plan on covering inventories. I do plan on covering puzzles and all that stuff. And I expect that I'll get back to the series a bit more now. I was very, very busy all summer, but I'm hoping to return to some normalcy now that the fall is back around. So I will put out another video in this series as soon as I can. As always, thank you guys for being so patient. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, drop a like, leave a comment. It does actually help out the series so much, the interactivity, and I appreciate everyone who does it. And a special thank you to my Patrons. It is because of you guys I get to keep doing this, and I love doing this. So I'll have an update on the next video soon and the animation pack whenever it drops. I'll see you guys soon.